He buried her 3 years ago. Or at least, what was left of her shuttle. No body. No signal. Just static and silence. But tonight, under a sky that never forgets, she stood at his door. Same eyes. Same voice. Same way of saying his name that made him forget to breathe. Only now, her skin glowed faintly blue. Her pulse moved differently. And her words were slower like translated memory. You said you'd wait. I came back. The face was hers. But something in the eyes remembered more than it should. Ethan hadn't dreamed about her in months. The silence had settled into him like dust in an abandoned room. 3 years. 3 years since the incident over Kepler 4. Since the signal blinked out. Since Amelia's name was whispered like a cracked echo in every mission debrief. There was no body. No black box. Just a twisted hull and debris trailing across half a quadrant. They told him she died instantly. But they didn't look him in the eyes when they said it. He lived quietly now. Nights were a ritual: 1 beer, 1 news scan, 1 hour staring at the stars as if they owed him something back. But that night, it wasn't the stars that came. It was the knock. Soft. Measured. Not the urgent kind. Just steady. He stared at the door. It was 2:17 a.m. No one ever knocked this late. His heart didn't race. It paused. He opened the door. And the world tilted. She stood under the porch light like she belonged there. Like she'd never left. But the details were wrung off by just enough to make his breath catch. Her hair, long and black, was braided in a spiral pattern that shimmered slightly under the sodium lamp. Her skin, almost translucent, held a pale blue hue, like starlight through frost. And her eyes. God. Her eyes were Amelia's. Ethan, she said softly. It's me. He didn't answer. Didn't blink. He couldn't. Every neuron in his body screamed contradiction. Every memory fought to reconcile what he saw with what he knew. She stepped forward. Her movements were fluid, too fluid. Like gravity bent differently around her. Her suit was red, alien in design, smooth and seamless, glowing faintly at the joints like it breathed with her. I came back, she whispered. He backed up a step. Who are you? He managed, voice cracked. You know me. You feel me. He shook his head. No. Amelia, my wife, she's dead. You're not her. She tilted her head. I was. Once. Before they found me. Before they rebuilt what they could. His grip tightened on the door frame. What are you talking about? She took another step. She was closed now. Not touching, but enough for him to feel something in the air change. Like static. Like memory. They saved what was left of me. Not the body. Not the voice. But the pattern. The imprint. They put me in this. He stared into her eyes. And something shattered. Because they weren't just Amelia's eyes, they were Amelia's memories. He saw the way she looked at him the first time they danced. The way she blinked when lying about stealing the last cookie. the tear that slipped down her face when they lost their first pregnancy. "You know things only she would know," he whispered. She nodded. "Because I was her?" He stepped back into the house, still staring, and she followed uninvited, but not unwelcome. She looked around, taking in the photos, the furniture, the small life he'd tried to rebuild. "You kept it all," she said. "I couldn't throw her away." She looked at him. "Then don't throw me away." He sat down heavily on the couch, hands trembling. "I don't know what to believe. I don't know if I'm going mad, or dreaming, or if this is some cruel experiment." She knelt before him. "Feel. Not with your mind. With what's left of your heart. The part that only I ever knew." She reached for his hand, paused just before touching, as if waiting for permission. He didn't pull away. Her fingers were warm. Real. Not synthetic. Not cold. His lips parted. "Tell me something, something no one else knows." She smiled faintly. Leaned in. "You were going to name her Iris." The breath left his lungs. No one knew that name. Not even their parents. It was the name they whispered in bed, between grief and hope. He stared at her. No longer shaking. Just broken. She was something else now. But somewhere in there behind the alien skin and unfamiliar breath something remembered how to be Amelia. And that, more than anything, terrified him. "She told me about our honeymoon. But not the part I told anyone." Ethan didn't sleep. The next morning, she stood in the kitchen. Not moving. Not eating. Just watching the sunlight drip across the counter like something she hadn't seen in years. He watched her too. She didn't ask for coffee. But she took the mug when he offered. Held it like it was fragile, even though she wasn't. "Where did they find you?" he asked. "Not where. Between. That doesn't mean anything." She looked at him. "Neither did death. Until I woke up." He stared. "What happened after the crash?" She took a sip. Then, calmly, "I saw our honeymoon. The rain on glass. The way you kissed my wrist when you thought I was asleep." He froze. He had never told anyone that. Not even her. Especially not her. That kiss was private. Silent. A moment he kept folded in the corners of memory. She set the cup down. "Ask me anything." So he did. He asked about their first apartment. About the night the power went out and they lit 36 candles. About the joke only they shared, the one about the astronaut and the spoon. She remembered it all. Every detail. But sometimes, her phrasing was off. Like the cadence of her words had been run through a filter. As if she knew the answers but didn't always know how to say them in the right rhythm. He noticed when she blinked too slowly. When she breathed, it was too even. Too precise. So he made a decision. He called in a favor. An old contact at a private med lab off-grid, discreet, no questions asked. That night, under the guise of a long drive, he took her there. She didn't resist. She watched the trees blur past the window and said, "I don't mind the scan. You already doubt me. I want the truth. Even if you don't like what it looks like." He didn't answer. The tests were done in silence. Blood samples, neural scans, genetic mapping. He waited outside the exam room, palms sweating. 34 minutes later, the technician walked out, holding a folder and wearing a look he couldn't name. "She's not human," the man said. "Not fully." Ethan felt the words hit his chest like pressure change. But her brain contains human cellular clusters. Memory centers with patterns that match cognitive signatures we see in grief trauma survivors. Ethan blinked. "And the DNA? 82% match to the sample you submitted. Your wife's old records. 82. Not a clone. Not synthetic. Not full alien either. Whatever she is, she carries your wife's imprint." Ethan took the folder. Didn't open it. She was already waiting by the car. Her face unreadable. He handed the folder back to the tech and drove without speaking. Back at the house, she didn't ask what the results were. She sat on the porch, staring at the sky. "It's beautiful," she said. "What is?" "Earth. Through these eyes." He sat beside her. "You passed every test. That doesn't mean I'm her. But you remember things only she would. And yet I'm still wrong." He turned to her. "Who are you really?" She looked at him. "Someone who remembers what it felt like to be loved. And is terrified that memory isn't enough." He didn't know what to say. She stood. "If you can't love me, then remember me. That's all I ask." He stayed on the porch long after she went inside. Because he didn't know what was more painful. The fear that she wasn't real. Or the fear that she was. "I didn't ask her to stay. But I didn't tell her to leave." Ethan lay in bed with the lights off and the ceiling humming softly above him. The air recycling unit pulsed with the steadiness of a heartbeat, but it wasn't his. He hadn't been able to hear his own heartbeat for hours. Down the hall, she was in a guest room. Or maybe she was watching the stars again. He didn't know. He didn't ask. Sleep came close but never landed. Like a ship circling but refusing to dock. Instead, he thought of Amelia. Of the way she used to hum in the shower. Of the scar on her hip from a childhood bike crash. Of how she hated cold feet under blankets, so she always wore socks to bed, even in the summer. And then he thought of her. The one here now. The one with Amelia's memories. The one who blinked too slowly. The one who said his name like it was made of light and static. At some point, his feet hit the floor. He didn't remember standing. He just found himself walking toward the hallway, each step quieter than the last. The guest room door was open. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, still fully dressed, her hair braided like constellations. She looked up when he entered, but didn't speak. Neither did he. He sat beside her. Not close. Not far. Just there. For minutes, maybe more, they listened to the quiet. Then she said, almost a whisper, "This body feels foreign." but next to you, I feel like I belong again. He closed his eyes. I don't know what this is. It doesn't have to be anything. But it is. She tilted her head. Do you want me to leave? He didn't answer. I didn't think so, she said softly. They lay back on the bed, not touching. Just breathing the same space. And in that moment, Ethan felt everything and nothing. Warmth. Terror. Guilt. Hope. Her presence wasn't comforting. It was overwhelming. A reminder of everything he lost and something he might still lose again. Do you remember the snow? He asked. Which one? The one where we built the crooked snowman. The one that looked like it was running from a fight. She smiled. You gave it a spoon instead of a nose. Said even snowmen deserve dessert. He laughed. And then stopped. Because it wasn't just memory. It was her tone. The rhythm. The feeling. It was Amelia. But not. Like an echo spoken through unfamiliar lips. Tell me, he said. Are you really her? She turned her head to face him. Do you want me to be? That wasn't the answer. But it was the truth. Neither of them moved. The house was quiet. He could hear the faint buzz of a street light. A distant owl. His own heartbeat, finally, like thunder in water. If this is a lie, he said, it's the cruelest I've ever loved. She reached out, barely brushing her fingers against his. Then let it be the last lie that holds you. He didn't flinch. He didn't speak. They stayed like that until sleep finally came, not fully, but just enough. Not enough to forget. But enough to stop remembering for a while. What if the one I buried is still out there? It was the middle of the day when the call came. Ethan almost didn't answer. The number was unmarked. The screen just flashed, secure line, orbital command. He picked up. Mr. Hale, a calm, sterile voice said. This is Commander Adra from the Kepler 4 Salvage Initiative. We recovered an emergency cryopod from the debris cloud last night. There's a survivor. Ethan stood frozen in his kitchen. Who? Amelia Hale. Your wife. The world tilted. The phone slid from his hand and clattered to the floor. He didn't pick it up. The woman down the hall, the one who looked at him like she remembered his soul, wasn't he Amelia? She never had been. He drove to the orbital lab without telling her. Didn't leave a note. Didn't say goodbye. Amelia was asleep inside a glass cocoon. Pale. Thin. But undeniably her. No alien features. No glowing eyes. No translucent skin. Just Amelia. Human. Real. He pressed his hand to the glass. And cried. They said she would wake in days. Maybe weeks. Her mind needed time. He said nothing. Just nodded. And left. Back home, she was sitting on the porch. Waiting. She looked at him and knew. You found her, she said. He didn't answer. She stood. Walked toward him, slowly, as if through water. I was her. Until I became me. He swallowed. I need time. Time doesn't change what I am. He looked at her. Really looked. Every detail he once thought was off now glared at him like neon. You're not her. She nodded. No. But I loved you like she did. He sat on the steps. The air was too still. She knelt beside him. If you can't love me now, then let me go forever. How can I let go of something that never should have existed? She didn't flinch. Then don't. But don't pretend I'm a placeholder. He ran a hand through his hair. The silence between them screamed. I don't know what to feel. Then feel nothing. But choose. He couldn't speak. She stood. Looked down at him one last time. You saved me, Ethan. When I was nothing. When I was a fragment of someone you lost. He didn't look up. I'm not her, she said again. But I was real. For you. Then she left. He didn't follow. And in the quiet she left behind, he realized something more terrifying than the call, more devastating than her goodbye. He had fallen in love. Not with the woman he buried, but with the one who came after. And now he had lost them both. I couldn't choose who came back. But I could choose who I let stay. Amelia remained in stasis. The doctors said her vitals were stable. Brainwaves sluggish but active. She might wake up. She might not. Ethan visited her every day, sat beside her tube in silence, fingers barely grazing the glass. He told her stories. Old ones. Ones they had shared. Ones he could never share again. But he didn't stay long. Not anymore. Home didn't feel like home. It felt like an echo. She, the other Amelia, the one with constellations in her hair, was already gone. He didn't see her leave. But she left something on the table. A small device, no lights, no buttons. Smooth, oval, warm to the touch. There was a note. I didn't record images. I didn't need to. You'll remember the feeling. He didn't activate it. He didn't need to. Some nights, he held it in his hand. And the memories came. Not visions. Not voices. Just warmth. The sound of laughter in a room that wasn't his. The weight of someone beside him who didn't breathe the same air, but somehow understood the silence better than anyone ever had. She had said once, "This body feels foreign. But next to you, I feel like I belong again." He hadn't answered then. But he did now. You did. He never spoke of her. Not to friends. Not to Amelia when if she would wake. Some things aren't secrets. They are sacred. He looked up at the sky more often now. Not to search, but to remember. He wondered if she had found another planet. Another station. Another version of herself to become. She had loved him as someone else. He had loved her as something new. And he would carry both truths. Until the end. He never cried. He never tried to bring her back. But when he touched the small device again on a rainy evening, fingers trembling, he felt something inside his chest he hadn't felt since she left. Not grief. Not loss. A pulse. Something had survived. She wasn't his wife. But she was the part of him that had survived when his wife died.